just after 8. I'm going to make a start actually so that we can finish on time. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Elizabeth Hackett. I'm a pharmacist. I'm currently practicing. I work at the Leicester Royal Infirmary, and on the side I've got an essential oils business which I'm absolutely loving. I guess in my time as a hospital pharmacist, I have seen so many people admitted to hospital through side effects of medicines, and I often ask myself whether they really needed those medicines in the first place. And sometimes the answer is yes, but sometimes the answer is no, and that's my answer, obviously not always theirs, but it does make me question our usage of medicines, and I think sometimes we possibly look to medicines as a quick fix when perhaps there are other alternatives. Sometimes those alternatives might be lifestyle. Sometimes they might be things that actually take a bit more time and a bit more effort on our behalf. And I think a lot of people want the quick fix. And I think the NHS is under so much pressure and so much stress at the moment that sometimes the quick fix suits everybody, doesn't it? Because it takes a lot of time to educate people about lifestyle, about diet, about exercise. It can take a lot of time and a lot of effort, and sometimes the NHS just doesn't have the time to do that. So anyway, I'm on my soapbox a little bit here. So I've kind of branched out a bit from being a traditional pharmacist, and I've absolutely loved learning about essential oils, because we now have essential oils available to us that are incredibly pure, and we haven't had this before really. We've got the opportunity to purchase essential oils that have no adulterants, no synthetics, nothing in them other than the essential oil that comes from the plant, and this makes all the difference to the effects that you get from essential oils. So my story started actually over 25 years ago when I qualified as a pharmacist, and I hadn't learned anything about essential oils actually in my degree, and I was in a health food shop afterwards, and I happened to find a book on aromatherapy, and I absolutely devoured this book. I loved it because I'm somebody that I just love good smells. I love things that smell fresh and nice and scented, and I choose flowers that have a perfume. I used to love using fabric conditioners because I loved my clothes to smell nice. I was always one for squirting perfumes all over the place because I wanted to smell nice. So to learn of medicine or remedies that actually helped people through a lovely aroma really appealed to me. So I read this book in the health food shop. I learned that I had to buy high quality 100% pure essential oils. So I went back to the health food shop, I bought some essential oils that were labelled as 100% pure, took them home, did what my book said, and I found they didn't work. They really didn't do what the book said. So I felt conned. I felt that I'd been led down the path, and I thought that natural remedies didn't work. I thought essential oils smelt nice, but I just thought they didn't work. So that was my mindset really for about 25 years. Then I was introduced to doTERRA, and everything changed at that point. I learnt that the essential oil industry is so poorly regulated that even when an essential oil says 100% pure on the label, actually when it's chemically analysed, when you actually test what's inside the bottle, it very rarely is. And just to put this into perspective, there was a study that was done last year in the States by the APRC, which is the Aromatic Plant Research Centre. So it's, a very well established body in the USA, and they have all the science, all the testing, and lots of the big brains over there. And they took essential oils from 50 different companies, and they chemically analysed them, because that is the only way you can tell what is inside that bottle. So they chemically analysed them, and they found that 3 of the 50 companies were actually producing really truly pure essential oils. All of the others were adulterating their oils in some way, whether they were diluting them or using synthetics or sometimes they use a different plant that actually smells similar to the one that they're claiming it to be, but actually the therapeutic benefits just aren't the same. So doTERRA, I'm glad to say, was one of the 3 companies that were found to be consistently producing pure essential oils. So this is why I choose doTERRA. They are slightly more expensive than they are more expensive than the ones you'll buy in the health food shop. If you actually compare them to other reputable, really reputable brands, they're about the same price actually. So when you can buy lavender oil or frankincense oil for a couple of pounds, I'm telling you, there's no way that is pure. You will not be getting the real thing. So I would steer clear of anything that claims to be 100% pure if it's actually really inexpensive, because it won't be. And they get away with putting 100% pure on the label because the regulation just isn't there. So anyway, that's me. I'm a mother of 2 young boys. I've got a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old. And to be honest, they love the essential oils just as much as me. They ask for them when they're unwell. You know, if they cut themselves, bruise themselves, or get bitten by insects, they come to me and ask for essential oils. I don't even think they can remember using medicines. We certainly haven't used any medicines in the last 3 years. So since I've really immersed myself in essential oils, we haven't actually required any medicines at all in our household. And that includes, you know, the standard Calpol, which we used to get through loads of. But and it's not that I'm opposed to using it. I don't really like using it. I'll use it if we need to, but we just haven't needed it. So I've learned to support our immune systems. And if anybody does get ill, and you know, every now and again somebody does get ill, we get a viral infection, but because I'm using essential oils to support the immune system, we find that we get over viral infections so much quicker than other friends and, you know, people that I know, work colleagues that have a similar infection, which is probably the same infection, but they tend to be unwell for many more days than I am, and my children's school friends seem to be unwell for many more days than my children are, and I am certain that is because we are using essential oils. So there has been what I term a real explosion of interest in essential oils recently. And I think part of this is very much because we now have very pure essential oils that are available to us, which, you know, in the past we haven't been able to get hold of these. I think people are aware. A lot of people are aware of the side effects and the toxicities of medicines, and there seems to be a bit of a shift out there in people looking towards more natural remedies. I think the media has helped as well. There's been a lot of kind of talk in the newspapers about the damage that household cleaning products might cause. So, for example, I know there was a study that was in the Sunday papers. It was 2018, February, and it was looking at people who used cleaning products around the home on a very regular basis. In fact, you know, not around the home so much, but in their daily jobs. So they were cleaners, domestic cleaners. And they found that when they analysed their lungs, they had the lungs of people that smoked 20 cigarettes a day. So, you know, a lot of the cleaning agents that we have used traditionally for a long time are known to be very damaging to our health. And yet they're still available. They're still there in the supermarkets. You can still buy them all. But I think there's a lot more kind of awareness of that. And I know quite a few green cleaning kind of companies have sprung up. Just incidentally, some of those green products are perhaps not as green as we might be led to believe as well. Some of the damaging chemicals are still being found in some of those products. So again, you know, it's a bit of a minefield out there. But certainly I now make my own cleaning products for use around the home. I don't buy any more sprays. I make my own. I use things like white vinegar. I use Castile soap, for anybody that's heard of that before, and essential oils. Because you can put essential oils inside these cleaning products. A lot of the oils have got antiviral, antibacterial properties. Some of them cut through grease. So, you know, you don't necessarily need to have all of these harsh chemicals. There are alternatives. There's also more awareness out there of some of the body care products that that you can buy. Some of them cause what they call hormone disruption, which I'm sure many of you have probably heard of, where some of the chemicals actually mimic estrogen or mimic other hormones and basically just disrupt our whole kind of endocrine system. That's our hormone system, and can make you feel rather unwell when things get out of balance. And the other thing that I think people are much more aware of now are air fresheners, including candles. I've been reading about paraffin wax-based candles, how damaging those are to our health. But air fresheners as well, they're completely synthetic. And the plug-in air fresheners, those have been associated with health problems as well. So there's a lot of information out there. Sometimes you've got to go looking for it. Sometimes it's not always kind of like handed to you on a plate, but there's certainly a lot of question marks over some of the things that traditionally we will have had in our homes. And essential oils offer an alternative to many of these things. So basically, what is an essential oil? In essence, it is the plant's immune system. So it's what protects the plant from environmental pathogens, and by pathogens I mean things like bacteria, viruses, funguses, molds, things that attack the plant. So its essential oils often give that plant the ability to survive or to get over threat from pathogens. Essential oils are what they call volatile oils. So basically, a plant can produce two different types of oils. It can produce what they call a fixed oil, which is something like your olive oil, your sunflower oil. It's an oily substance that does not evaporate at room temperature. So if you spill a drop of olive oil, it stays exactly where it is. Essential oils are volatile, which means they will evaporate at room temperature. So if you spill a drop of a pure essential oil, it will evaporate. Sometimes it takes a long time, sometimes it happens actually quite rapidly. But if your essential oil has been adulterated or cut, then it will not evaporate in the same way. So an essential oil, to extract it from the plant, you need to extract it by a method that isn't going to introduce any chemicals into that oil. So if you combine chemicals that are not natural to that oil into the oil, then the properties are altered. Quite often they are diminished. They're not usually enhanced, they are diminished. So it's really important that we don't introduce any type of chemical into that oil in the extraction process. So the way that doTERRA extract their oils is either by what they call cold pressed extraction, which is where you basically just squeeze the oil out of the plant. And they would do this for the citrus oils. So for example, lemon oil, orange oil, these types of oils are in the rind of the citrus fruit. The rind of the citrus fruit. It's not in the flesh of the fruit, it's the rind. And chemically, they are completely different from the flesh of the fruit. So to get the oils out of the rind, you just literally take the rind and you squeeze it, and the oil will squeeze out. You know, like when you peel an orange, and quite often you get that squirt. That's often because when you've peeled it, you've opened up one of the little oil sacs in the rind, and you know, more often than not it goes straight into your eye. It certainly does with me. But that is the pure essential oil from that plant. So the other way that you can extract essential oils is by what they call steam distillation. So all you are introducing is water or steam. They pass steam through the plant materials, which causes it to come out of the plant, and it gets mixed with the steam. But as you cool the steam down, the oil separates out, so the oil will float on the top of the water, so you just literally siphon it off, and that is a very clean way of extracting essential oils from plants, and it doesn't introduce any other chemical residues. So essential oils are incredibly concentrated. They are therefore very powerful. Compared to medicines, they are very safe as well. I don't know if you've ever looked at the package insert when you've bought some medicines or when you've had a prescription of medicines, but if you look in the package insert, you will see a list, a long list of all of the potential side effects. That is something that the manufacturers have to do as part of the licensing agreement. So they have to tell you all of the potential things that can go wrong. And sometimes if you read that, that's actually quite scary. But with essential oils, the data would suggest that only 0.071% of all users of doTERRA essential oils will actually have an adverse effect. And when you look into the data, more often than not, it's a skin reaction rather than, an allergy or an anaphylaxis or something that's really severe. Usually it's because somebody has put the oil on their skin and they haven't diluted it very well, and the oil is actually quite irritant. If you put a neat oil on your skin, it can irritate. This is usually what happens when an adverse effect is reported, and it's not often any worse than that. So essential oils or doTERRA essential oils are 100% natural, which means they are very safe. They can be used in very young children, so even newborn babies sometimes that have trouble settling, or babies that are teething, we can use essential oils in them. Sometimes some babies get terrible acid reflux, or they get just indigestion, and they can be in quite a lot of gripey type pain. Essential oils can be used quite effectively in them as well. And at the other end of the scale, essential oils can also be used in older people, and older people are generally much more susceptible to side effects of medicines, or adverse reactions to all sorts of things, because they're a bit more fragile. Their skin is much more fragile as well. So when we apply essential oils to an older person, we would dilute them right down in the same way that we would if we were applying essential oils to a younger person. There are dilution charts available which advise you on how many drops of neat oil you should put in how much carrier oil. I'll talk about that in a moment. Actually, I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but I can certainly put some of the dilution charts. In fact, I'll put one dilution chart. If I put more than one in, it'll confuse you. So I'll put a dilution chart into the group for anybody that needs to know if you're making your own dilutions. So doTERRA oils are all what they call CPTG oils. They are certified pure therapeutic grade. Now, if you look on your bottle, I'm just grabbing one of mine, you will see somewhere on your bottle there is a little CPTG, can you see that? Logo on there, and that is your guarantee from doTERRA that the oil that you have in your bottle has been through all of their testing processes and is absolutely pure. So each essential oil is tested multiple times over the production, and it's tested once again before it is bottled. So right at the very end of the production process, it's tested once again, and if it is found to be pure, right at the end of the production process, it goes into a bottle and it gets its CPTG labelling. Now, on the bottom of your bottles of essential oil, you will find a batch number. So for anybody who's interested, you can put that batch number into a website called source2you.com, and you can find the chemical trace of that essential oil, which is basically, it's what they call a GCMS trace, and it shows you the different chemical components in your bottle of oil. So if you compare that to the standard, you will be able to see anything in that bottle that shouldn't be there. And in fact, you won't, because if there was anything in that bottle that shouldn't be there, the batch would have been completely discarded. It wouldn't have been bottled. But if anybody needs any kind of guarantee, or actually wants to see for themselves what's in their bottle, that can be done by looking at Source2You website, and that information is put up there by an independent tester. It's not put up there by doTERRA. It's an independent third-party tester that tests all of doTERRA's oils for them before they're actually bottled. So that is just another guarantee to us that the oils that we are using are absolutely 100% pure. So essential oils are very, very potent. You will get effects from essential oils. They are about between 50 and 70 times more potent than herbs, and that is just because it's really condensed. The herbs contain the actual kind of plant parts as well as the essential oils, but it is the essential oils again within the herbs that are actually working for you if you use herbal medicine. So where do essential oils come from? They come from all over the world. doTERRA will partner with farmers in countries where the plant will grow indigenously the strongest. So for example, Sicily is amazing for oranges. So doTERRA partner with farmers in Sicily, and they get, not oranges, I mean lemons, sorry, lemons. They get all of their lemons from Sicily. I can't remember where oranges come from. I think it's South America somewhere, I can't remember. But yeah, all of doTERRA lemons are grown in Sicily. Peppermint is the only product I think that's grown in the US. A lot of the oils come from poorer countries, and if you think about it, I mean, it surprised me actually how many poor countries actually do produce high quality essential oils, and that is because the plants are often having to survive really harsh climates. And so for those plants to survive those climates, it's their essential oils, their high quality essential oils, that is allowing the plant to actually thrive in that environment. So it means that, you know, for example, things like frankincense. Frankincense is an amazing essential oil. It comes from Somalia, Oman and Ethiopia are the three countries where doTERRA would go to partner with the farmers and work with them, work with communities in harvesting the crops and the oils from those crops. doTERRA do a lot of humanitarian work, so they have these projects that they call co-impact sourcing. So they will partner with communities, they will help to build schools and hospitals and water pipelines, and you know, basically they will help the whole community in any way that they can, really. There's a lot of really lovely kind of humanitarian stories that are available on the doTERRA site. So if anybody's interested, just go to doTERRA.com and put in co-impact sourcing, or look at some of the projects that they do. There are loads and loads of them, and you know, it is really lovely to be able to work with a company that has that really cares about the people that help them to supply us with essential oils. So they care about the end users and they care about the producers, which is really lovely. So I'm going to talk a little bit of science here, because obviously my background is very, very much scientific. And that, for me, this is another reason why I love doTERRA, because doTERRA on their company board have got a medic, and he absolutely understands the value of having science and having research, and you know, he knows what is required by the medical profession to actually understand and to become interested in the doTERRA products. So there's a lot of research that is currently going on. There's a lot of partnerships with universities and hospitals, and all sorts of, you know, really scientific projects are now being undertaken, which really helps people like me that need that scientific evidence. So I'm going to talk a little bit of science, because that's the way that, you know, that validates the use of essential oils for me. And it also explains to me and to other people how they work. So as you will recall, I said an essential oil is an oil. It is therefore what they call lipophilic. So it has an affinity for fatty material, for things that are fat-based. Medicines, on the other hand, the majority of medicines are hydrophilic, so they have an affinity for things that are water-based. So a medicine will often dissolve in water, and when it does dissolve in water, what they call it dissociates, which means that it forms a compound with a positive and a negative charge. So you've got a positive charge on one end and a negative charge on the other. And this is what they call a polarized molecule. Now, polarized molecules do not naturally cross our cell membranes. Our cell membranes are formed of phospholipid. And the whole purpose of our cell membranes around our cells is to protect them from chemicals and noxious substances coming inside the cell. So it's a purely protective mechanism. But essential oils, because they are lipophilic, they have an affinity for our cell membranes. So they are attracted to the cell membranes, and they can cross the cell membrane by a process called passive diffusion. So they will diffuse in and out of our cells with no expenditure of energy from within the cell. If, for example, we wanted to get, or our cell wanted to get a medicine inside, you can cross it. The cell can bring chemicals into the cell by a process called active transport, which actually kind of like brings the outside in. that requires quite a large expenditure of energy from the cell. So it doesn't happen that much. And it's one reason why we don't have very many antiviral agents. We don't have that many medicines that we can use against viruses. And you'll know if you get a cold or a sore throat that if you go to your GP is likely to say to you, you know what, you can manage your symptoms. We've got things that can help you manage your symptoms, but actually to overcome this viral infection, you've just got to take it easy and let your immune system do the hard work. But with essential oils, because a lot of them have got really quite potent antiviral properties because they protect the plant from viruses, if an antiviral essential oil crosses our cell membrane and finds a virus on the inside of our cells, and let's remember, viruses can only replicate inside our cells. So viruses kind of make a bit of a beeline for inside our cells, where they will take over our cell nucleus, which they need to do to replicate their viral DNA. So viruses like to get inside cells. So if we are using antiviral essential oils, and we have a virus, we have a viral infection that's permeated our cells, then that essential oil will zap that virus, basically. So if you get a cold or if you get a viral infection and you start to feel that kind of, the first sensations of the sore throat, the maybe kind of a little bit feverish, just generally feeling a bit viral, if you start to use the antiviral essential oils at that point before you have the full-blown infection, quite often you can completely eradicate that virus from your system before it makes you really unwell. And I have demonstrated this with myself and also with colleagues. In fact, a couple of colleagues at work, start to be a bit sneezy or say they're not feeling well. I'm the worst person to tell because I will get all my essential oils out of my drawer and offer essential oils. Quite often, they're fine the next day, and quite often, whenever it happens to me, because I'm straight onto my essential oils, I'm also fine the next day. So it's not often now that I go down with a full-blown viral infection. And if I do, if I carry on using my antiviral essential oils, then I get over it. I seem to get over it a lot more quickly than my colleagues would. So it's the way that this works the best, though, is if you can catch that virus before the virus has kind of like replicated many times and completely overrun your system. If you can catch that virus at the very first sign of feeling unwell, then you have a really good chance of actually, eradicating it before it actually takes hold and makes you feel really unwell. But bacteria, on the other hand, bacteria do not live inside our cells. Bacteria live on the outside of our cells. So therefore, we have a number of antibacterial agents. We have quite a lot of antibiotics, okay? Resistance is another problem, but we actually have the agents. And that is because they don't have to cross the cell membrane. They just need to get into our bloodstream in order to be able to kind of, meet the bacteria and kill the bacteria or prevent that bacteria from replicating. So there you go, a little bit of science, and it really works. So if anybody who's got essential oils that is watching this and wants to know the blend that I would recommend for that viral infection, there's 5 oils in the blend. It's called Floom, Floom, and the F stands for frankincense, the L is lemon, one of the O's is on guard, the other O is oregano, and the M is melaleuca or tea tree. Melaleuca we call it in doTERRA. So that blend, that is 5 very, very potent antiviral agents that work so well. There are 2 ways of taking it. You can either make a topical blend, so topical means on your skin, so you can either apply it to your skin, or for anybody that really wants to kind of like zap that infection, you can take it internally. I will post the recipes. In fact, I'm just making myself a note. I will post the recipes for that Floom in the group so that you will have that. There are, obviously it's different quantities of oil depending on whether or not you put it into a little capsule. Actually, I'm jumping the gun again here, but while we're talking about it, these are called veggie caps. Okay, I get them from doTERRA. You can get them in health food shops. I just tend to get all my doTERRA stuff from doTERRA because it's easier. But basically, can you see, that is a little capsule. You can take it apart. You put essential oils inside the capsule, so you can literally just drop them inside. Okay, you take the lid off, drop them inside the capsule, put the lid back on, and you can swallow that. That is good to do if you are using an essential oil that you don't want to taste. So for example, oregano is a hot oil. You would not want to get oregano on your mouth because it stings and it burns. Some of the other oils you can take in water, but I don't normally recommend oregano. But while we're on it, I will tell you that if you have a sore throat, a drop of oregano and melaleuca in a glass of water, just one single drop in a glass of water, shaken up if you can, because otherwise it just floats on the water. But if you gargle with that, it has amazing effects. I tried this with my son, and I both had a sore throat the day that we were meant to go on holiday. My husband had this horrible sore throat and cold and thing, and both of us, I'm sure we were both coming down with it. He's 12 years old and he's game. He's game for gargling. So the two of us gargled with this oregano and melaleuca, and it was hot. It was uncomfortable. But we gargled with it. I swallowed it. He spat it out because children that are 12 are not supposed to really swallow the essential oils. But I swallowed it. Next day, I was fine. He was fine. We were both fine. And I'm certain we were going down with that same sore throat and cold that my husband had. So anyway, that's just by the by, getting a bit distracted there. But it's sore throat season, isn't it? So if anybody has a sore throat and can withstand a little bit of pain, okay, it's not horrendous. It is a bit uncomfortable. But then, you know, so is the pain of a sore throat. So you're kind of replacing the pain of the oregano with the pain of the sore throat with the pain of the oregano. But it's short-lived. It doesn't last long. So anyway, yes, I'm going to post the Flume recipes for people that want to know about Flume. The other oil that you can use to support your immune system is On Guard. And I'm sure everybody in the group that bought oils has got On Guard. So On Guard is a blend. It contains clove and cinnamon and orange, eucalyptus and rosemary. Yes, those 5. They work synergistically and they also work really well. Now within Flume you've got that On Guard blend, but if you just want to use On Guard on its own, then that also works. It works really well. It works very well prophylactically as well, which means if you want to protect yourself, so if you've got another family member, for example, who is unwell, you can use your On Guard in your diffuser to vaporize it, and if it comes into contact with any airborne pathogens, so any kind of airborne viruses, it'll zap them, it'll get rid of them. So yeah, I think I'm jumping the gun a bit again. I've got a whole slide, I'm just reading my slides down here, but I've got a whole slide on Guard, so we'll come back to On Guard. But it is a great oil. I did a little bit of research with that one. It's one of my favourite oils. So anyway, we've got 3 different ways of using essential oils. The first way I'm going to talk about is aromatically. So aromatically means inhale, you're smelling the oil. Usually if we want to have a positive effect or a positive impact on the emotions, we would suggest the aromatic route. Now the aromatic route, when you smell something, the actual smell goes via your olfactory nervous system, which goes directly, it's linked directly to the limbic part of the brain, which is kind of like in the middle at the back. And the limbic part of the brain is the part where you store emotions and memories, and it's kind of like your emotional center. So when you stimulate the limbic part of the brain, quite often you can have an impact, you can have an effect on the emotions. With the essential oils, what they tend to do is they seem to balance things out. So if your emotions are heightened and you want to kind of like bring them down a bit, or if you're feeling very sluggish and very low and you want to bring them up a bit, the essential oils seem to have that effect of being able to balance them. They don't, not to my experience, they don't really take people who are in balance out of balance. They just help to bring everything back into balance again, which is obviously very helpful. Also, when you use an essential oil aromatically, when you inhale the particles, they are going into your lungs and they will be absorbed through the capillaries in your lungs and they will go into your bloodstream, only in very small amounts, because obviously you're kind of, you know, they're very well diluted in the air and whatever, and you know, you don't get large amounts into your system through the aromatic use, but nevertheless you will be getting some of those particles into your system, and they will actually have a systemic effect, which is another reason why you want to be using pure essential oils, because some of the adulterants in some of the other oils are really, they're chemicals that you really would not want circulating in your body, or that of your children for that matter. So yes, that is all really important. When you're using the oils aromatically, you can smell them directly from the bottle. You can put them in a diffuser. So when you put them in a diffuser, you are vaporizing them. You're not heating the oils, and it is really important that we don't heat these oils, because when you heat them, you change the molecular structure a little bit. And if you change the molecular structure, then they're not going to work the same. So you basically want to keep the molecules intact, and the way to do that in a diffuser is by vaporizing as opposed to heating and producing steam. So your diffusers kind of jiggle the water. They jiggle, when you put water in your diffuser, they jiggle it, and you put 4 or 5 drops of oil. Usually that's enough for a normal sized room. If you've got a large room, you may want more. If you've got a small room, you may want less. If you particularly want to smell something quite strong, then you may want a bit more. It really is just up to you as to what your personal taste is. But if you put about, I'd say normally about 4 or 5 drops in total of an oil, so you might want to use 2 drops of one, 2 drops of another, and a drop of something else. That's kind of like your 4, your 5. But it's a combined total. That's generally speaking, that is enough. You switch your diffuser on. Some of them have, you can choose how long, how many hours the diffuser's on for. Some diffusers will literally just go until the water has gone. All of the diffusers that I've come across will cut off when there is no water left. So, you know, you don't have to worry necessarily about, you know, going out and leaving the diffuser on. You wouldn't have to turn around and go back home and switch it off like you do some other electrical things. If it runs out of water, it just switches off. And that's because the water acts as a conductor. So when the water's gone, the conduction across the base is lost, and so the electric circuit is just cut. And there's no heat. So there's no kind of, you know, there should not be any type of fire risk at all with an essential oil diffuser. So the other times when we may want to use an essential oil in a diffuser is if you want to have an effect on the respiratory system. And that is because, again, if you think about it, when you're breathing those oils in, they are being delivered to the site where there is a problem. So I know people who have respiratory diseases, so for example, asthma. I know somebody with COPD. These people sometimes use things like breathe oil in their diffusers, and that is so that they can have a local effect, local as opposed to systemic. So they're delivering the oils to the site where there is a problem. And in asthma and in COPD, we have actually had some really great results using the oil breathe, or they call it air now. Breathe and air are exactly the same thing. If you look online, you'll find in the States they still call it breathe. In Europe, we've had to change the name to air, so it's a little bit confusing for people. But just remember that breathe and air are the same. And if you're looking on an Australian site, they call it easy air, which doesn't really help. It just makes everything a little bit more confusing for us. But don't be confused, because it is the same thing. I think that's probably all I can tell you about aromatic. Oh, you can also get aromatic jewellery. So I haven't got mine on, but I often have a necklace on that's got a little felt pad on the inside, and you can drop oils onto the felt pad. And so I can smell my oils on my necklace, and that is, I just love doing that. I've often got it on, and I can often be seen at work just literally with my necklace on my nose, so I'm sniffing my necklace. Most people know that I'm into essential oils. They know what I'm doing, as opposed to just like sniffing my jewellery. So anyway, that's the aromatic route. If anyone's got any questions, then you're welcome to post them. I might not see them in this live, otherwise we may be here too long. But if you want to post questions, then if I see them, I will get to them and I can answer in the group, so don't worry about that. Right, so the next way of using essential oils is topical. Topical means applied to the skin. So as I've kind of like already alluded, you need to dilute essential oils before you apply them to the skin, and this is because they are so strong. A lot of the oils can cause skin irritation, so they can just, you know, make your skin feel really red and uncomfortable. And some of them, like for example the hot oils like oregano, what's the other ones? Cassia, cinnamon, thyme. Those are all, they're all hot oils. They're called hot oils, and that is because if you put them on your skin kind of feels like it's on fire. It feels really uncomfortable. So you want to be diluting your all essential oils, but particularly your hot oils, or else you will end up making your skin most uncomfortable, and you may get a skin reaction. You may be one of the 0.071% of people that has an adverse effect to essential oils, so don't be one of them. Dilute your oils in a carrier oil, and again, I think everybody that bought essential oils in that last round has got fractionated coconut. If you haven't received it yet, it should be on its way to you. I sent it out to everybody. Fractionated coconut is my preferred carrier oil. This is a fixed oil, so this is an oil that doesn't evaporate. So therefore it makes a really good carrier oil. It has no smell because when they have they've slightly altered the molecule of this. The fractionating changes the molecule so that it's a liquid at room temperature, so it's really easy to work with, as opposed to the coconut oil that we might use for cooking, which is solid. You can actually use that if you want to use that oil, but what you need to do is you need to warm it slightly so that it becomes liquid. Then you can add essential oils, and then you can let it solidify again, so you're kind of making a balm. That sometimes makes really nice lip balm if you want to use coconut oil with essential oils. But it's a lot easier just to use the fractionated coconut, and the reason, or one of the reasons I love this oil is it's got the positive healing benefits of the coconut, but secondly, it's actually chemically very stable when you add essential oils to it. So some of the other carrier oils start to oxidize, or they will start to degrade a little bit when you put essential oils in them, but the fractionated coconut is very stable when it has oils in it, so it doesn't need, or it doesn't really expire. You've got many weeks, if not months, on a dilution that you have made using the fractionated coconut. So that's one of the reasons I love that one. Dilution charts, I will add a dilution chart. Note to self, I will add a dilution chart into the group as well, so that you've got that. But basically all it tells you is how many drops of essential oil, neat essential oil, to put in either a 5ml or a 10ml rollerball. Now the rollerballs that I send out to people are 5ml. I prefer the smaller ones. You can buy 10ml ones and they are fine. Obviously when you've got 10 mils of a diluted essential oil, it will take longer to get through, and I'm of the opinion that it's probably better to replace them reasonably frequently. You don't want a diluted essential oil to be hanging around for years. I don't know how long it will take you to get through them, it depends what it's for, but I kind of prefer to replace mine every couple of months, and usually I find that a 5ml rollerball will last me a couple of months, so by the time I finished it, it is time to kind of, you know, empty it out and start again and make a fresh dilution. But like I said, you can buy 10ml ones, and you can use 10ml ones if you want to. Anything else about topical? Topical application is great because it works on a local skin area. So for example, if you have eczema or dermatitis, then the topical route is definitely the way to go. There's no point inhaling oils if you've got like an insect bite. If you've got an insect bite or something, or a burn or anything on your skin, you want to be using the oils topically on your skin, on the site where you have a problem. The only time actually when I don't recommend applying an essential oil to a site where there is a problem is when somebody's had surgery. So if somebody has a surgical incision, I recommend applying essential oils close to the incision but not directly on the incision, and that's just sometimes because the incision itself may have stitches, it may be stitched underneath the skin. I just feel that it's better to apply close to the area because you're going to get absorption of the oils into the surrounding tissue, so you're going to get the oils permeating the areas where you want them to aid with the healing process. But yeah, I don't necessarily recommend applying it to a surgical incision, and that's about the only time when my children have grazed themselves or when they've cut themselves. I'm kind of happy to apply the oils on location to the actual point where, you know, where the skin is broken. It's usually lavender that I would recommend. Lavender, when you first apply lavender, it can sting a little bit, but it's really short-lived. I haven't noticed that, but my younger son tells me when I put lavender when he's cut himself that it actually hurts a little bit, but it doesn't last very long and he will tolerate that kind of discomfort for a little while. Lavender, actually, even though I've said dilute it, lavender is one of the few oils that you can actually apply neat to the skin. So as a rule of thumb, you should be diluting. However, with lavender and actually with melaleuca, those are the only two that you can actually get away with applying neat to the skin. So I put neat lavender on my children. On nettle stings is amazing, and grazes and bruises is really good as well. It takes the kind of like the pain out of a bruise, which is really good. Burns is another one. You don't want to dilute your oils. If you've burnt your skin, you want to put neat lavender on, and that is magical. It's so soothing, and it takes the pain out, it takes the sting away, it takes the redness away. So yeah, lavender is amazing. I think I'm going to talk about that in a moment though. Topical, that's everything I think I've got to say about topical application. So the third way of using essential oils or doTERRA essential oils is internally. Now, I do not recommend this for any other brand of essential oils. If you read on the bottle, on your bottle of essential oils, if it says on there not for internal use, do not use it internally. If it's a doTERRA one, then quite often you can. But not all doTERRA oils you can use internally. If you're in any doubt, ask me. doTERRA have gone through this system of having to label their bottles in accordance with kind of European licensing and European law. So it sometimes says, for example, on the bottle of lavender, I'm just reading this, it says skincare oil. You can safely take a drop of lavender internally. You may not get that from the bottle. But if it were to say on here, not for internal use or do not use internally, then I wouldn't. It doesn't say that on this bottle, but on other brands of essential oils, if it says don't use them internally, then absolutely don't. It's quite possible it might say that because they aren't that pure. But yeah, I don't recommend internal use of any other brand other than doTERRA oils. So internal use is for adults only, so we don't recommend that children use essential oils internally. And the definition for oils between an adult and a child is usually about puberty. So if you've got a child that has been through puberty, we would classify them as an adult. If they haven't reached that point yet, then classify them as a child, and it's probably best not to use essential oils. But again, that is kind of like a parent's decision. I've used lemon essential oil internally in my younger son when he was 6, and I was happy to do that because I'm absolutely convinced that lemon is safe. It is so safe. Would I use others? I probably wouldn't use the others, but things like citrus oils, I'm okay with that. Freddie had a sore throat. He had a drop of lemon in honey for his sore throat. Lemon has got amazing antiviral properties, and it's not the vitamin C. So you don't get vitamin C in essential oils. The vitamin C is in the fruit, it's in the flesh. It's not in the essential oil. The antiviral properties of lemon are actually, it's nothing to do with the vitamin C. In fact, you don't get any vitamins in essential oils. Vitamins are found in the flesh, actually in the flesh of the fruit, as opposed to the rind of the fruit. So when you use essential oils internally, you can use them in a veggie cap, like I showed you. For the Flume blend, I would do that. You can use them mixed in a teaspoon of honey. You can also mix them with coconut oil if you want to. I know some people that do that. I don't. I think that sounds pretty gross, and I wouldn't want to do that, but some people do. You can also put essential oils in water, but you need to remember that they will float on the top of the water, so you need to agitate, you need to shake it up. I haven't got it here, but I've got a glass water bottle which I sometimes put essential oils in, and I really shake it well to disperse the oils really well. And if you let it settle, if you leave it for a little while, then the oils again will float to the top. You need to redisperse. Actually, while I'm on this is a really good reminder for me to let you know that you mustn't use essential oils internally. You mustn't drink them from a plastic container. So essential oils, many of them will start to erode plastics, and when they do that, they release some of the chemicals in the plastic, which is not good. So we use glass, we use ceramic, you can use china, or metal. You mustn't use a plastic cup or a plastic water bottle to use or to drink your essential oils. Plastic diffusers, they are of a quality of plastic called HDPE, which is a high grade plastic that doesn't get eroded by essential oils. That is obviously if it's a good quality diffuser. If you're buying a cheap diffuser that's kind of come from Amazon and it costs you a couple of pounds, it's probably not the right grade of plastic. So I would, with doTERRA oils, I would steer clear of the cheaper kind of, you know, diffusers where you really don't know the brand. I probably would steer clear of them. Higher grade or well-known companies, well-known brands, they're probably okay. But like I said, it needs to be HDPE plastic, high density polyethylene, in order for the diffuser not to interact with the oils. And just remember, if it does, if your diffuser's interacting with the oils and producing chemicals, you're going to inhale those because you're vaporizing them in the air, which you don't want to do. The essential oils have been defined by the FDA in the States as what they call GRAS. That means generally safe for, can't remember what it stands for. It basically means that you can use it for safely flavouring foods. The FSA in the UK has also approved essential oils for flavouring food. So that's just another kind of guarantee to us that they are safe for internal use. Clearly you have to be careful. You don't want to be like drinking a whole bottle of essential oil because that would just be silly. But 1 drop at a time is okay. When you make the Flume blend, you end up with, I don't know how many drops. It's about 10 drops actually. And that's okay. It's quite a strong blend. Is it 10 drops? It's quite a few drops of oil, but you can use those, but you certainly, you know, you wouldn't want to be using 10 drops of the same oil. It's okay if you mix them up a bit. I think there is a limit. I think actually it's 24 drops in 24 hours. I'm going to check that one. Again, I will put that in the group, the maximum recommendation of internal number of drops internally. Just because I brought it up and I can't remember, but I'll put it in the group. So let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about essential oils. So I'm going to talk about lavender oil. Lavender oil is probably one of the most widely used essential oils. I think most people have come across lavender. Most people have smelt lavender. When you smell the doTERRA lavender, I think if you've ever smelt anybody else's lavender, you would agree that doTERRA lavender, it's just different. It's got a much kind of cleaner, crisper, purer, is that the right word? I don't know, it's hard to describe a smell, but to me it smells very different. It's got very calming properties. It's good for calming, it's good for sleep, it's good for people that feel stress and anxiety. It's been shown in some studies to reduce or to regulate cortisol, which is one of our fight and flight hormones. So if you've got like high levels of cortisol that are rushing around your body and you're trying to go to sleep, then you're going to find that your body is not in a state really to sleep. It's more in a state for fight and flight. Some studies have also shown that lavender works on a receptor in the brain called the GABA receptor. Now, GABA is a receptor that when you stimulate this receptor, it has an inhibitory effect. So it calms things down, it dampens things down. Interestingly, from a pharmaceutical perspective, some of the medicines that we use for helping people to sleep also work on the GABA receptor. So things like benzodiazepines, which are used as sleep medication, and anxiolytic, that means reducing anxiety. Benzodiazepines, you've got diazepam and temazepam, lots of other azepams, but they work on that GABA receptor and stimulate that receptor. The benzodiazepines or the medicines will lock onto that receptor and they will spend quite a lot of time in that receptor until they're metabolized away from the receptor. With lavender, because it's comprised of kind of compounds and chemicals that your body is very used to, it has the whole kind of spectrum of liver enzymes to be able to metabolize it very quickly. So it doesn't last in the system for as long, anything like as long as, say, for a benzodiazepine would do. It's metabolized a lot more quickly. Therefore, it doesn't have what they call the hangover effect. It shouldn't make you feel woozy and, kind of like drugged out the next day, which sometimes some of our kind of, hardcore sleeping medications can do. Lavender is also very good for skin health. So as I've said, I use it on my children if they've got cuts and grazes and bruises. It's good for eczema and dermatitis. So for anybody that has eczema actually is usually diet related. In about 80% of people with eczema, it's often something that you're eating that is causing the problem. But Using lavender in that type of situation it helps, but actually what you need to do is you need to address the diet to actually stop the problem in the first place. But when I'm recommending essential oils for eczema and dermatitis, I would usually recommend lavender and melaleuca, so lavender and tea tree together. We've had some really great results with that, and if you apply it kind of, you know, on a regular basis to the area where you have the problem, it seems to have very, very healing effect on the skin. Lavender, as I said, can be used for burns, absolutely magical. I don't even bother with the cold tap. I go straight for the lavender now, and put it on the burn neat. In fact, I burnt the palm of my hand. I don't know how I did that, but I managed. What did I do? I got raw cake mix on it. Well, it wasn't raw. I microwaved it, but it was kind of like dripping. Don't ask. But I got that on my hand, and of course, because it was sugary and very hot from the microwave, it was really quite uncomfortable. And so I just literally scraped it off, put the lavender on, and then totally forgot about it for the rest of the night. And I'm sure had I not put the lavender on, it would have probably been quite uncomfortable for the rest of the night. Lavender's really good for children who are teething. So we use 1 drop in 10 mils of carrier oil for a very young child, and you would just apply to the jawline. If lavender itself on its own isn't good enough, you can add a drop of chamomile, and I know some people would add a drop of copaiba as well. So try the lavender. If that's not enough, there are other things that you can add, but most of the time lavender is actually really, really calming. So it not only does it help with the pain of the teething, but it's also very calming for a child that might be in discomfort or might, you know, actually be quite distressed by the fact that they've got their cutting teeth. Lavender's good. Cuts and bruises. Yep, ear infections is a really great one. So lavender and melaleuca again together, rubbed around the ear. So you never put essential oils inside the ear canal. You never put them in the eyes, and you wouldn't put them up the nose either. But if you have an ear infection, you can rub it around the ear. So you go in front of the ear, behind the ear, even on the flat bits inside the ear, but not inside the ear canal. The oils will be absorbed to the areas where they're required. I can tell you lots of stories about children who have avoided courses of antibiotics, or who have had courses of antibiotics that haven't worked. We've given them lavender and melaleuca, and hey presto, their ear infection has miraculously got better. We even had one child that had like a serious, it was glue ear, I'm sure it was glue ear, and my friend recommended just melaleuca actually on its own, and this child had had so many courses of antibiotics, hadn't helped, was at risk of losing part of his hearing. It was like, you know, pretty horrendous. He was under the ear, nose and throat, the ENT specialist at our local hospital, and you know, his infection was so bad. And the antibiotics just weren't touching it, but the melaleuca cleared it up. The consultant couldn't believe it, and the child has got 100% of his hearing, so he hasn't lost any of it. So do never underestimate the power of these oils. They can be incredible. They can be absolutely amazing. Lavender is also part of the antihistamine trio. So that is 3 oils that we may use together, not necessarily so much at this time of year, but certainly in the summer when people are experiencing hay fever and seasonal allergies. If you have allergies to feathers and dogs and things like that, then of course you can use these oils any time of the year. But they really come into their own. For the antihistamine trio really comes into its own in the summer months. So the antihistamine trio, obviously trio, 3 oils. You have lavender, lemon and peppermint. Those 3 oils together are brilliant, and I can tell you many people I know who often take antihistamines through the whole of summer, but when they use those 3 oils together don't require antihistamines, which is just brilliant. I love it. I love it when we don't need to use medicines. So the next oil I'm going to talk about, I'm going to go through all 10 oils in the starter kit. In fact, I've got mine here. I'm just going to bring them here. We have got peppermint. So if anybody's got their peppermint, have a smell of your peppermint. It's an amazing oil. Instantly I smell that and I'm like, whoa, it just kind of like puts my head back on my shoulders. If I'm feeling at all woozy, or I've got brain fog, and quite often I have quite a lot of brain fog. Part of that problem is because I don't go to bed on time. I'm one of these people that stays up all night because I'm so busy. And I think my hormones are against me as well. I have brain fog just from my kind of, you know, my stage in life. I'm undergoing kind of, you know, all the perimenopausal stuff as well, and I'm becoming really forgetful, and I can't multitask like I used to. I used to be one of these people that had like millions of things on the go. I can't do that anymore. If I'm not focusing on what I'm doing, then I'm all over the place. I can just do one thing at a time these days. And even then, I don't always do it so well because I'm kind of like a bit scattered and a bit distracted. But I find that peppermint really helps me with that. It just seems to kind of like help to bring my focus to where I want it. It puts me back in my head when I'm feeling scattered. I often use peppermint in my car diffuser as well. So I've got diffusers all over the place. I love them. I love the smell. I still love smells. But my car diffuser comes out if I'm going on a long journey, or if I've got to drive when I'm feeling a little bit tired, or if I've been up all night, you know, doing all my stuff. I would use peppermint, and quite often I put lemon as well, because lemon is also very good for focus and concentration. So peppermint and lemon in the diffuser if you want to feel nice and alert and maximize your productivity. So sometimes, you know, if I've got lots of work to do and I actually want to kind of like really get down to work because I haven't got a lot of time, I put peppermint and lemon, and I put rosemary in my diffuser. Not everybody will have rosemary, but rosemary has been shown in studies to improve memory. So that is like, again, memory is not what it used to be. That rosemary will help as well. Peppermint is good for colds and congestion. So if you've got any kind of like, you know, nasal stuffiness, it really helps with that. You can put it in a diffuser. Sometimes I just put it on my hands. I've got really tough skin, so I know that I'm okay putting a drop of neat peppermint on my skin. I wouldn't recommend that for anybody that's got a sensitive skin. Dilute it first in a carrier oil. On the palms of your hands, though, quite often you can get away with undiluted oils. I wouldn't recommend that you do it very often, but every now and again is fine. If you've got a sensitive skin, then don't do that. Just dilute it and don't put it on any sensitive skin. So palms of your hands and soles of feet. Your skin is very tough and very thick. In fact, soles of feet, I should have told you about this earlier. Soles of feet is a really great place to apply essential oils because you get a really great absorption through the soles of your feet, and your skin is very tough. You are highly unlikely to get any type of sensitivity reaction. Palms of hands is very similar, but palms of hands, you know, the oils can kind of get wiped off. If you're kind of holding things, it can be, they're not exactly greasy, but your hands just can feel a little bit slippery. But sometimes with my children, if I want to put essential oils on them before they go to school and I forgot to put them on their feet before they've got their socks and their shoes on, which quite often happens, then I would just say quickly, just put a bit on the palms of your hands. So sometimes with my children, we put On Guard. I've got a roller ball of diluted On Guard, which they'll put on the palms of their hands. They will get absorption, and that On Guard will help to protect their immune systems. And we do that quite a lot at this time of year because so many germs around. So many children have got kind of like lurgies at the moment that, you know, I'm trying to protect my children because I don't want them to get ill before Christmas, because if they get ill, they'll pass it on to me and I don't want to get ill. So we are using our oils prophylactically at the moment. Prophylactically means as prevention. Sorry, I've got distracted again. Peppermint, good for headaches. So I don't get many headaches, but if I do, peppermint will take that headache away almost immediately. So again, what I would do, I put a tiny little bit on my fingertips and I would just rub it into my temples, avoiding my eyes. If you get essential oils in your eyes, it's really uncomfortable, so don't do that. But if you're going to put it on your temples, put it more towards your hairline so that it can't kind of, you know, get in your eyes. So temples and back of neck for headache. Peppermint is really great for that. Well, it is for me. Peppermint is also good for stomach cramps, stomach pains. You can take it internally for that, or you can actually dilute it in a carrier oil and actually rub it over the tummy area. Peppermint is quite cooling, so you may get that kind of like cold sensation. That is the menthol in the peppermint that does that. But we can also use that for children who have a fever. So as long as your child hasn't got like a massive fever, you know, 39, 40 or whatever, if your child has just got a slight fever, then peppermint is actually really, really helpful for helping to make them, to help to cool them down a little bit. And peppermint, part of the antihistamine trio as well, as I said, with the lavender and the lemon. Okay, so that's peppermint. Next one I'm going to talk about is lemon. Lemon oil is really good for focus and concentration and alertness. It's part of the antihistamine trio. Smells really fresh, really lovely. I find I can't smell that. That's not that strong to me, but I know some people that smell lemon, they think it is very strong. So there is so much bio-individuality here. I have come across so many variables, so many different people. It's so unique and so personal to each individual, what they smell or how they perceive a smell. And it absolutely fascinates me. We don't all react, we don't all smell the same things. So yeah, essential oil, great for concentration, really good for cleaning. So I know that for some of you, I think I've shown you what lemon oil will do to a balloon. I don't have a balloon here, but if you put a drop of lemon oil on a balloon, the hydrocarbon in the D-limonene, which is one of the components of lemon, the hydrocarbon will dissolve another hydrocarbon. So greasy products, oils, latex, that's all hydrocarbons. So latex on a balloon, if you drop your essential oils on that, it bursts the balloon, but it will also cut through grease. And also sticky labels. So for people that have a sticky label phobia like myself, I can't stand the sticky residue that a label leaves. I can't stand picking off labels, but a drop of lemon literally just wipes it off. Make sure you don't drop your lemon on your gloss paint or on your anything plastic, because it will erode it. I think we've got Zengest. We've got one of the oils on our TV remote control, and it's got a nice little dimple in it where the oil has eroded the TV remote. So they are very, very kind of powerful against synthetic hydrocarbons. So just be a bit careful. There is research to show that lemon can help to reduce anxiety and feelings of stress. Lemon has been shown to also have promote a more uplifted mood. So all of the citrus essential oils are uplifting. They can kind of, lift people. I'm not saying somebody that's in kind of, a very heavily depressed state will sniff lemon and suddenly feel okay. But if you feel that, you're a bit flat, or if you're just feeling a bit kind of like, I don't know, just like you could do with a bit of a, an uplift, then lemon is a really great one for that. So just have a couple of sniffs of lemon, put a bit of lemon in the diffuser, and that can just really kind of like help to just bring you out of I wouldn't say a depression, because it's really not. Wouldn't say it's antidepressant, but if you're just feeling a bit low, then lemon can really help with that. Lemon has got amazing antiviral properties, so it is part of the Flume blend. It's also therefore good for kind of colds and sore throats. As I said, in Freddie, I used a drop of lemon essential oil in honey, and that got rid of his sore throat. He went to bed with a sore throat. The next morning his sore throat was gone, and that was a time a couple of years ago actually when quite a few of his classmates had sore throats. That seemed to be what was going around, so he just picked up what everybody else had. He was fine the next day. A number of his classmates quite a while actually, for the best part of a week. So yeah, pretty certain the essential oils helped him. And a word of caution with the citrus oils. So citrus oils are prone to oxidation. So when you apply a citrus oil to your skin, you need to be careful if you go into direct sunlight, because it can cause what they call photosensitivity, which just means that your skin is much more sensitive to the sun, to direct sun, when you have got lemon or any citrus oil on it. So what we would suggest is if you've put citrus oils on your skin, you need to stay out of direct sunlight for 12 hours. And that includes sunbeds. If anybody goes on a sunbed, I know some people do. I don't think they're as popular as they used to be, but nevertheless, do not go on a sunbed after you've applied lemon essential oil to your skin. It's fine if you've taken it internally. It is only if you've applied it to your skin. In the winter time, it's not a problem, unless obviously you go overseas. But in the UK, in the winter time, it's not a problem. It may be a slight problem in the summer. If we've got some strong sunshine, keep out of the sun if you've applied lemon oil, or just cover over. If you've applied it to your hand, then wear gloves. No, don't do that. Don't apply it to your hand. You can apply it to the soles of your feet if you need lemon, but I would probably not apply it to anywhere that's going to be exposed to the sun. Okay, next, On Guard. On Guard, this is one of my favourite oils. I love this. This is one of my first kind of like really positive experiences was with this oil. I was using it in my children. I got my oils in October, so yeah, it's about this time 3 years ago. Actually, we're a bit beyond October, aren't we? But anyway, I was using it between October and Christmas, and putting it on my children's feet, as I'd been advised to do. It was diluted on the soles of their feet twice a day, and they weren't ill. And this was 2016, wasn't it? Yeah, 2016 was a horrendous year. Everybody at my children's school was going down with the most horrendous bugs. I mean, yeah, vomiting bugs and kind of coughs and flu type things. I mean, there was so much going around, and my children didn't get them. And that's unusual, because they usually got them. If there was stuff going around, they normally got them, the germs. But this particular year they didn't. And I was like, oh, is this because I'm using essential oils, or is this just one of those things? I was still very skeptical at this point. And I happened to mention to a friend of mine that I'd been doing this. And she was like, do you know what? I've been doing the same. She'd been at the same class as me. She'd learnt the same thing. She was like, I'm doing the same, and my son hasn't been ill either. So what I decided to do was a study. I thought I would take it a little bit further, because obviously, you know, 3 children is that they could just have been lucky. So I needed bigger numbers. So basically I got a load of my mum friends from the playground to apply On Guard essential oil to their children's feet, diluted twice a day, for the next half term. So that was between January and mid-February, again, another time when there's lots of germs around. And I had 14 children in the On Guard group. I had 22 children in my control group. So the control group, the children weren't using anything. They were just like normal life. At the end of each week, the mums were telling me how many days their children had been unwell, how many doses of Calpol or ibuprofen, and how many days off school. And I averaged the results, but it was very simple stats. I'm not a statistician at all, but I just did a mean average of the number of days of illness per child, and we found that the children in the On Guard group were ill for 1.9 days per child, compared to the control group, who were ill for 4.3 days per child. So the On Guard group were ill for less than half the number of days than the children in the other group. So that for me was just like, that was the proof, that was the evidence that I needed, that these oils were having a true effect. So basically we've used On Guard oil a lot over the winter months ever since then, because I am so sure that this is having a protective effect on my children. Therefore it's having a protective effect on me as well, because they're not bringing all of their school germs home. So yeah, On Guard, one of my favourite oils. Absolutely love it. It's got clove, cinnamon, orange, eucalyptus and rosemary. Those 5 oils in there. Very Christmassy. It can be used to flavour mulled wine, because it is all those spices that you put in mulled wine when you're making making mulled wine. But it's very good for supporting the immune system. If you put it in your diffuser, like I said, it becomes vaporized in the air, and if it comes across any kind of pathogens in the air, it will just eradicate those. It's being used, I believe, in 140 hospitals. That's what I've heard, 140 hospitals in the States. Not aware that we have any hospitals in the UK that are using this yet, but basically I know 2 GPs that are using this in their waiting rooms, so areas where unwell people convene and potentially share their germs. So not only is it kind of, you know, protecting the patients or the people waiting to see the doctor, but it's also protecting the staff that work in that environment as well. So it's got amazing antiviral properties, but it's also got a lot of really great antibacterial properties, including against MRSA, which is one of our hospital superbugs. So it will kill MRSA, and studies like this are so easy to perform. It's like when you're working with bacteria, they either live or they die. They don't do that in between thing. They don't have an emotional response. They live or they die, and if they die, then you know that your oil has killed them, because they won't be dying for any other reason. You can use it as a hand cleanser as well. doTERRA actually make a hand cleansing spray. They make On Guard beadlets as well, which are tiny, tiny little capsules that have got 1/4 of a drop of On Guard in. Those are brilliant just to have in your handbag. I take them on an aeroplane, for example, when, you know, lots of people we're sharing the same air. They recirculate the air in airplanes. So, you know, if somebody's not well, then there's a great chance that their germs are going to be recirculated around everybody. So I would, you know, give everybody in the family a drop of On Guard in a beadlet, sorry, an On Guard beadlet. I'm happy for the children to use them. It's a quarter of a drop. They love it. It's a bit of a treat for them. It's kind of quite a big, powerful flavour because it's got clove oil and cinnamon oil in it. But they love it. They're used to them, and they, you know, it's a bit of a treat, like I said. But that's definitely something that I carry around at this time of year. So if anybody around me sneezes, I have one of my little On Guard beadlets. And touch wood, I don't think I had a slight snivel about a couple of weeks ago, but I haven't actually, touching wood, haven't had any major illnesses this winter yet. You can also use On Guard as a surface cleaner. So they do concentrates and they do kind of, you know, kitchen type things that you can use. They do a laundry detergent as well. They, being doTERRA, do a laundry detergent that's got On Guard in it. So that kind of sanitizes your laundry. Yeah, great oil. Love it. Next one is Melaleuca. So Melaleuca is the botanical name for tea tree oil. It smells, I think it smells quite antiseptic. For me, that's not a beautiful smell. I think I've grown to like it more than I used to. It's not one I would necessarily use in my diffuser, but then, you know, that said, I have used it in the diffuser if we've got kind of, you know, viral infections in the house. But Melaleuca tea tree has got amazing antiviral properties. It's really useful for people that get cold sores, for example. So that first sign of the tingling, if you put a dab of Melaleuca on a cold sore, it quite often stops that cold sore from really kind of, you know, coming out and flourishing. It's known as first aid for skin, so you can use it on all sorts of skin conditions, including things like candidal infections, athlete's foot, other fungal toenails. Melaleuca will help with that. Melaleuca and oregano, I would use those two. That's what I recommend. And we have had some really good results from people that use these two together on fungal toe infections, which are really quite notoriously hard to get rid of. If you use conventional medicines, quite often you've got to be using them for many, many weeks before you'll actually get a full eradication of the problem. It is the same for the oils. You need to use them for quite a long period of time, but they can help. They can help massively. Melaleuca is also useful for ear infections, as I said, with the lavender, combined with lavender. Also good for helping with head lice. So when the letters come home from nurseries and schools, what I used to do, in fact I still do, we don't get quite so many of them now, but I would put a couple of drops of Melaleuca in conditioner and I put that through my children's hair. And again, touching wood, since I've been using Melaleuca, we haven't had head lice. We had it a couple of times actually before I got my oils, but we haven't ever had it since. And I think, I don't know, but I do use Melaleuca prophylactically again, so that may well be helping us. You can use Melaleuca for warts and verrucas. However, I think oregano is a million times better. So I wouldn't recommend it necessarily for warts and verrucas, but I believe some people have had success with Melaleuca. The other place I use this is in water when I've got flowers. You know, sometimes the water can go a bit green and slimy on the top. If you put a couple of drops of Melaleuca in the water, then it helps to kind of, you know, preserve your water for longer, so you don't need to replace it quite so quickly. I think that's all for Melaleuca. Oregano is the next one. So oregano is a hot oil. When you're smelling oregano, just be careful that you don't accidentally stick your nose on the end of it. I've had that happen to a few people before and it's actually really uncomfortable. If it does happen, this is with any of the oils, if you get any essential oil on your skin and it feels uncomfortable, then what you need is your fixed oil. Don't try to wash it off, because when you try and wash it off, all you do is you drive the oils into your skin further, because the oils and the water don't mix. So what you need to do is take a carrier oil and you wipe it off. And by doing this, you're diluting the oil that's on there, but you are actually wiping it off your skin. So you can get pretty much instant relief from discomfort from hot oils or from any oils by using an oil to wipe it off. My son has had molluscum. I don't know if you've seen my post. I've done a big post and it kind of went a bit crazy on Facebook because it got shared by loads of people, because molluscum is a horrible condition. Not that it actually causes many problems. It just looks horrible because it's kind of like these little warty like bumps that suddenly spring up in clusters often over children's bodies. And you know, you don't I'd never even heard of it until a couple of years ago. And the place that you spot it is often in the swimming pool, because usually it's on the trunk of the body, and you don't, unless it's your own child, you don't normally ever see that part of another person's child. And it is predominantly something that children tend to get. It's highly contagious. It's called molluscum contagiosum, and it's a viral infection, just like a wart, but it spreads. And my son Freddie's just had it. We've only just recently got rid of it. It started off with 2 like warty type things on the back of his shoulder, and I saw those and I'm like, oh, what are they? Where did they come from? And I kind of like, watched them. 2 weeks later, there's another 2, and I'm like, oh, that's not molluscum, is it? Oh my gosh, because it was like, there was only 4 spots, and then suddenly, oh my word, I don't know what happened, but his back was just suddenly covered, and all down the side, under his arm and under his armpit, just covered in these horrible wart things. And he was mortified. He was like, I can't go swimming. It looks awful. People are going to stare at me. So I actually bought him this whole kind of like, big swimming top thing that he could wear to cover him over. But I did, when it overnight, when it suddenly kind of flourished, it almost looked like chicken pox, because each one had a little head on it. And so I took him to the doctor, and I was like, I think this is molluscum, but oh my goodness, look at this. It's all just happened overnight. And the doctor happened to be a dermatology specialist, and he's like, yeah, that's classic molluscum. That's what happens. And he said it normally takes between 18 months and 2 years for it to go. And of course, at this, Freddie was just like, oh my gosh, I'm not going swimming for 2 years now. So I was like, oh, Freddie, we'll get rid of it. We'll try the oregano, because I'd heard that oregano worked. I think I'd recommended it to a couple of people with kind of mixed results. So we started using the oregano, diluted, because it's a hot oil, and actually it didn't work. It didn't work. There was still spreading. So in the end, I used it neat, and I did it so carefully. Being a hot oil, you have to be very, very careful just to get it on the head of the spot. So I took a cotton bud, I took 1 drop of oregano. We had about 50 of these spots, and I literally dabbed each one just once. And I did this religiously. I tried to do it twice a day. I definitely did it once a day. Some days I did it twice a day. And within 4 weeks, molluscum completely gone, completely eradicated. So that was, cut the time down from 2 years to 4 weeks. It was amazing. And that post I've had a lot of comments and feedback from people that have had molluscum and say, yeah, do you know what? Yeah, 2 years. It took 2 years to go. It took 2 years for my immune system to actually get rid of this without any support. I mean, there are things you can do. The doctor said that you can use lasers on them, and you can use these other really kind of like caustic chemicals, but he's like, it's so traumatizing for the children that we just don't do it unless it's disfiguring. So unless it's like, somewhere all over their face, or it's like up their nose, or somewhere that's actually really a problem, we just let the immune system kind of like deal with it. But oregano was amazing for that. It's also really good for skin tags as well. So I don't know if anybody's got skin tags, but you can just put a tiny little dab on a skin tag and it will shrivel up and just fall off. You may need to do it more than once, and you need to use a cotton bud. And again, try not to get it on the fresh skin, on the sensitive skin around it. If you just literally just get it on the skin tag itself, it shouldn't actually hurt. If you do miss, and I had to do this with Freddie twice, I think I missed, or I was a little bit overzealous with the oregano, it will start to feel uncomfortable. It starts to feel like it's burning. Just get your coconut oil or your cooking oil, your fixed oil, and just wipe it off. So that's what I did with Fred. I literally just wiped off on the particular spot that was hurting. I got him to show me exactly where it was hurting with his finger. So he'd point to the one and I'd be like, right, and I wiped it off and just left it. And he was fine with that. I mean, it was like, because I had the oil on hand, he didn't have to wait long, and it immediately got rid of the discomfort. So he doesn't tolerate pain terribly well, but he let me do this. And I think part of that was because he knew it was working. It was getting rid of these horrible molluscum things. So he let me do this. But yeah, similar with skin tags. If by any chance you're a little bit overzealous and you do get the oregano onto sensitive skin and it feels uncomfortable, then just wipe it all off and then try again a bit later, just on the head. Oregano, also good for candidal infections, needs to be diluted. So that would include athlete's foot. You can put it over the whole of the foot area, but just dilute it with the coconut oil. and just basically anything where you need to kind of give your immune system a bit of support. Oregano oil is very, very good, and it's also good in spaghetti bolognese. Don't forget that you can use these oils for your cooking. So 1 drop or even half a drop. Now how you get half a drop is you put 1 drop of melaleuca in a little bit of cooking oil, and you add half of the cooking oil. That would be equivalent to half a drop of oregano. Did I say melaleuca? I meant oregano. Because sometimes if you've only got a small quantity of something like spaghetti bolognese, if you're only feeding a family of 4, you might find that 1 drop is actually overkill because it is unbelievably strong. So just use a tiny bit, go easy on it, but it is great. You can use it instead of using herbs. Okay, next is Breathe or Air. I might call it Breathe when I mean Air. Again, they've changed the name of this one. I think I said that before, didn't I? Yeah, I think I did. But they've changed the name. Air, Breathe, Easy Air. It's all the same thing. It's a blend that has been formulated for the respiratory system, so it's really good for anything respiratory, whether that be a cough, congestion, a cold. If the children get a bit of a sniffle or a cold, I will put this in their diffusers. I even put a drop on their pillows, not where their face actually lies, but somewhere where, you know, down the side of the pillow where they can smell it. And it's really good. Sometimes it clears nasal passages that are all congested. It can actually do that pretty quickly. I've tried it in the bath. I love this one in the bath if I'm kind of feeling a bit sniffly. It often just helps your airways. It helps you to breathe clearly when maybe, you know, you're just feeling that you can't. But so it's good for colds and congestion. I have had people with asthma who have had miraculous results with this. I know 2 children that have used, 2 children that had like very brittle, unstable asthma, used this oil in their diffusers, and 2 of these children no longer require steroids. Now that is amazing. That's such a great result. Obviously, that kind of stuff is done hand in hand with a paediatrician. That is not something I would ever recommend a mother to do, is to stop something for asthma. Asthmatic medications save lives. Asthma kills. So I would never ever tinker with anybody's asthma medications, but I would recommend they carried on using their medicines and use this instead, and then, you know, over time when they next go and see their healthcare professional, a proper assessment can be made as to whether or not they still require their medications. Usually they still require, you know, the Ventolin. Somebody that's got asthma tends to have asthma for life, irrespective of what you do. So the oils don't get rid of the asthma, they just help to manage it and to keep it under control better. And for children to not require steroid inhalers is a massive result. One of these children that I'm aware of used to have multiple admissions to hospital, used to have to be, you know, taken to hospital in an ambulance in the middle of the night, and it caused massive distress for the mother, as you might imagine. She was often, you know, she just didn't sleep because she was worried that most nights that the child would have an asthma attack and she'd have to get the ambulance and they'd have to, you know, have an emergency situation. So for her, you know, 12 months later, to say that her child had stopped using the steroid inhalers because his asthma was so well controlled by using air in his diffuser at night. So she sets the diffuser, I think she said, for 2 hours every night. If the child by any chance gets a viral infection, and quite often if an asthmatic person gets a respiratory infection, then it can just send the asthma kind of haywire again. But she uses a lot of On Guard, so if her child gets any infections, she'll be using the Breathe and the On Guard together. And I'm certain she said she uses frankincense as well, which is anti-inflammatory and also helps the other oils to get absorbed. I'm certain she said she uses frankincense too, but definitely uses On Guard and Breathe. Air is also good for snoring. So if anybody is a snorer or has a snoring partner, you can try using a couple of drops of this in a diffuser. If you set the diffuser, you know, for bedtime, so you've got the oil in the air. You can also add it to a carrier oil and rub it over the chest area as well, or even on the feet actually. In reflexology, the big toes kind of signifies the head area. So people that know about these things have told me that if they apply diluted air to their feet, focusing on their big toes, then quite often that can help with snoring as well. It's definitely worth a go. I have found myself that it's a very calming oil, And it really helps me to sleep. And I find in the summer when it's very hot, if I use a couple of drops of air on my pillow, I sleep so much better. And I don't know why that is. I've just happened to have kind of serendipitously found that out, so it becomes part of my ritual now. If I can't sleep or if I'm feeling just uncomfortable in bed, then I often get the air oil out and just put a bit on my pillow, and it seems to work brilliantly for me. So it's worth trying for you as well if you ever get into that situation. And next oil is Deep Blue. This one comes in a 5ml bottle. You might have noticed it's smaller than the others, which all come in 15ml bottles. So Deep Blue is what they call the soothing blend. It's another blend that has got synergistic oils in it. It's really good for joint pain, muscular pain, anything where there's kind of inflammation. So arthritic pain. I know some people that have both rheumatoid and osteoarthritis, as in not the same person that's got both, but some people with rheumatoid arthritis and some people with osteoarthritis. I know one lady that's got ankylosing spondylitis that uses this as well and says that it really, really helps. It's it smells like deep heat. It's got that kind of medicinal smell. That's the wintergreen in it. It's got this essential oil called wintergreen that is predominantly methyl salicylate. So it's being a salicylate, it interacts with warfarin. Warfarin is an anticoagulant. So if anybody's using anticoagulant medications, this one is unfortunately contraindicated. It means you can't use it. You mustn't use it with anticoagulants because it enhance the properties and it can interact with warfarin to raise an INR, which is the way that we measure warfarin. It can raise an INR to a level that is not safe. So I'm afraid it is a direct contraindication. Even though with this one you don't take this internally, you only apply this one to your skin, you can get such great absorption through the skin that it can affect and upset your warfarin and anticoagulants. So that's a word of warning of that one. But it is really great. It's one of those oils, if this one works for your muscular aches and pains, it is one of those wow oils. I've had people in classes that I've run that have kind of come to the class. I had one lady that had damaged her leg at the gym that day and she hobbled in. We put some Deep Blue on her. And at the end of the class, I asked her how she was feeling and she had completely forgotten that she was in pain. She stood up and she was swinging her leg around because the pain had gone. Her leg was back to normal again. So, I mean, that was one of those situations where everybody in the class was just like, wow, you know, that testimony from her was far better than any testimony from me. But yeah, I've had lots of other people that have said that Deep Blue is really good. I've got one lady, in fact, I've got two ladies I know with sciatica who say that Deep Blue is brilliant for that. I know one other lady that has chronic back pain and uses the Deep Blue to alleviate that pain. So very, very good. Good for whiplash as well. Also can be useful for people with migraine. So migraine headaches that stem from a tension in the neck or in the shoulders. Sometimes if you hold your neck and shoulders very tense, you can get like tension type headaches, and sometimes some people will get like a migraine type headache from that. So massaging Deep Blue into those tense muscles can really kind of like help to relieve and alleviate migraines and headaches. You can also use Deep Blue on bumps and bruises as well. And as you'll notice, it has a child-proof cap. Not many of the doTERRA oils do. This is because if a child were to get hold of that and to ingest that, because of the methyl salicylate, it's toxic. So this one absolutely must not be ingested by anybody. Actually, we don't ingest that. Adults don't ingest that one, and children absolutely mustn't get hold of this one. Hence, you've got your child-proof top on it. Okay, next I've got Zengest. Zengest is the digestive blend. This is unbelievable for people that have problems with acid reflux and acid. I know many people who take what they call proton pump inhibitors, which are pretty powerful medicines that completely block stomach acid. So this is people that have, you know, just acid reflux and discomfort through acid, overproduction of acid. 1 drop of this in water twice a day is often enough to stop them from requiring their proton pump inhibitors. It's absolutely brilliant. For me, if ever I get indigestion, which I can sometimes do if I drink too much coffee, I love black coffee, and if I have too much of it, it just, you know, it upsets my tummy. 1 drop of that, I don't even bother with the water, actually, I just go straight on my finger onto my tongue. That is enough for me to stop that acid kind of problem, that, you know, that discomfort, that pain, just from kind of over drinking coffee. It's amazing. It's really, really good. So I have this one often in my handbag just in case. But yeah, great drug. I've got great oil. Somebody with Crohn's disease uses this on the soles of her feet, and she's found that she has fewer flares of her Crohn's disease, so it helps with other other stomach problems, indigestion, constipation, diarrhea, bloating. So sometimes if you eat something that doesn't agree with you, it can make you feel a bit bloated and a bit windy. If you rub this, so again, dilute it with your coconut oil or your carrot oil, rub it over the tummy area in a clockwise motion. That can really help, or you can take it internally, either or. Just generally really good for gut health, but it's also good for sinusitis, which is really interesting. So for somebody that has kind of like sinus pain, impacted sinuses, that can cause all sorts of problems with headaches and earaches and even toothache if your sinuses are really bad. What we found is that 1 drop of air and 1 drop of Zengest mixed together in coconut oil, rubbed across the sinuses, so that is literally all across the cheekbones. Your sinuses are all under here, right up to your ear. So rubbing, massaging all across here can really help to break down any impacted mucus that is causing sinus problems and sinusitis and sinus pain and tension. I know one lady that had this as kind of quite a chronic problem, and she said when she mixed the Zengest with the air and rubbed it across the sinuses, it was almost like the drains were unblocking. She could actually hear the mucus kind of like draining, and she could hear kind of like pops and fizzes, and it relieved the pressure. She was just absolutely kind of like gobsmacked by how effective that was. So it's definitely worth trying that combination of those 2 oils if you are affected by sinus pain. What else? Frankincense. That is the last one out of the 10. So frankincense, save the best to last. This is an amazing essential oil. It's the most expensive out of the kit of the 10 core oils. This 1 bottle of frankincense, to replace this 1 bottle, is £57. So it's an oil that you don't want to be kind of using all over the place. Use it sparingly. But I love that one. It's very Christmassy again, isn't it? It is the most amazing oil. It's got fantastic kind of, you know, helpful properties for many systems within the body. It's really good for immune support. It's antiviral. It's good for neurological health. I know people who have neurological pain. Frankincense is also great for inflammation. So neurological pain and inflammation, rubbing frankincense over that can really help with that. I have heard, I don't know anybody personally, but I have heard some people find relief from epilepsy using frankincense. So this is a really high quality frankincense. It's got to be to get these types of benefits. But one of the founders of doTERRA has got a son who is epileptic, and they use frankincense on him, and I believe it has very much helped to control, I don't know about eradicate, but it's certainly helped to control his seizures. Frankincense is also very good for cellular health. So by that, I'm talking about cells that have damaged DNA. Normally, our immune systems will take those cells out of circulation. If something goes wrong with the immune system, sometimes those cells can proliferate and can cause problems. But frankincense can help to eradicate and to remove those damaged cells from our systems, which is really important. Frankincense is great for skincare, so it's good for wrinkles and age spots and scars and stretch marks and things like that. If you mix a drop of frankincense in your normal moisturizer, you can just use it as part of your normal kind of, you know, face care routine. It will help. It's good for wound healing. So again, as I said, surgical kind of like wounds, really good if you apply it around the wound area. If you have grazes and cuts and scrapes and things like that, or even chronic wounds, chronic ulcers, then frankincense can also help in healing. It's kind of emotionally, it's a very calming oil. It's grounding, it's balancing. and it enhances the others. So it's got these properties. They call it a driver because what it does is it helps the other oils to be absorbed through the skin, so therefore you get a greater effect from the other essential oils. So quite often if I make a blend of oils and I really want it to be, you know, quite potent, I would add a drop of frankincense, which just helps the other oils to get absorbed and helps them to have a greater effect. So there you go, that's the 10 core oils. A little bit about essential oil safety, because I want everybody to be absolutely certain that, you know, they know about being safe with the oils. So you need, if you're putting them on your skin, they should be diluted with a carrier oil like a fractionated coconut. The only 2 oils that I would recommend that can go on your skin neat are lavender and melaleuca, but you can dilute those 2. There's no harm in diluting. And in fact, do you know what? This is counterintuitive, but if you dilute an essential oil with a carrier oil, you are not reducing the efficacy. And part of this is because when you mix an essential oil with a carrier oil, you are trapping the volatile oil in an oil that is not volatile. Therefore, the volatile oil will not evaporate. It's trapped inside the fixed oil. So if you're applying to your surface of your skin, because your skin is warm, if you're putting a neat oil on there, some of it will get absorbed, but quite a lot of it will just evaporate. If you mix it with a carrier oil, it doesn't evaporate. So therefore, it's in contact with your skin surface for longer, so you get a prolonged absorption. So you can actually get a sustained effect, you know, a prolonged effect from your essential oils by mixing them with a carrier oil if you're going to apply them topically. So again, like I said, counterintuitive, I know, because by diluting we automatically think that we are weakening, but we're not. When we're using essential oils, we're not. In some cases we are enhancing the properties of that oil to actually have a prolonged effect on our system. You mustn't use essential oils in the eyes, in the ears, or up the nose. It can be really uncomfortable, and you don't want to do any damage to the kind of, you know, the fine delicate parts of your ear. So do not tip essential oils in an ear. If you need to dilute an oil, you use a carrier oil. You don't dilute with water. Water and oil don't mix. You can drink essential oils in water, and sometimes, you know, as a nice drink, I love a drop of lemon or orange or even lavender in Prosecco. Amazing, that's really, really nice. But I will often use like a sparkling mineral water. So if I'm going out and I'm driving, you know, I have my 1 glass of wine. Sometimes I don't even bother with that, but I will take my bottle of essential oils and I would just order a mineral water, and I'll put a drop of lime in it, or a drop of grapefruit in sparkling water is nice. A drop of tangerine in sparkling water is really, really nice. So, you know, that's just another way of using essential oils for flavouring. If you have a sensitive skin, then the right advice is to patch test first. So if your skin is particularly sensitive and you're not certain whether the essential oils will be good for you, if you dilute a bit of an essential oil, put it on the inside of the elbow. That is a really good place just to see whether or not your skin is going to react. If you're going to get a skin reaction, you'll get one in that sensitive part of skin. I've never come across anybody that has had a skin reaction when they have diluted their oils. I have had one customer where we used a very strong blend of oils. This was when I was very new to essential oils, and I followed an American recipe. It's interesting, the Americans tend to use essential oils at much higher concentrations, but I followed an American recipe for a thyroid supporting blend. This lady had hypothyroidism. The oils themselves made her feel on top form. However, she ended up with a skin sensitivity reaction, and that was horrible. But I've learnt my lesson. We don't put strong oils on the neck. We would put them on the soles of the feet, and I would always dilute them down much more than I did in that situation. Citrus oils, I think we've already covered this, but just a reminder, citrus oils can cause photosensitivity, so don't put citrus oils on the skin and then go and sit in the sun for at least 12 hours, and likewise don't sit in the sun on the sunbed after having applied citrus oils to the skin. But basically, if you follow the guidelines, follow the guidance and the dilution and everything, then you really shouldn't go wrong. Flume, I will put in the group. Sleep and relaxation, there's so many different oils that we can use for that. Lavender's probably the first choice oil. Wild orange, I think everybody's got wild orange. Wild orange is another one. This oil is amazing for kind of like calming and sleep, and I believe it has been used in the States for post-war veterans with PTSD because it has got these beautiful calming properties. Breathe oil is another one that's really good for kind of like sleep and relaxation and calming. There are a whole load of other ones, but those are the ones that we usually start with. If anybody wants to know any other recommendations, then put it in the group. I'm happy to tell you of other oils that you can use for that situation. Essential oils for children and revising. Probably won't bother with this at the moment. If anybody wants to know, stick it in the group. I can tell you all about that. We've used them very successfully for children that are doing GCSEs and A levels, and my son was doing his SATs a couple of years ago. Completely helped him and 30% of his class. They were all using them. Guess what? I'd supplied them, but they were the children were so happy to be using the oils, and they felt supported. So they went into their SATs test feeling quite confident, which is just like, that's half the battle. Hormonal balance. Oh my gosh, there's a whole class I can just do on using essential oils for hormonal balance. We can certainly kind of, touch on that, and we can talk about that. There is one oil called Clary Calm, which is brilliant for helping to balance hormones that are kind of, a bit all over the place, as some people will probably be going through at the moment with kind of perimenopausal stuff going on. Clary Calm can start to kind of, just help to prevent some of the peaks and the troughs in kind of, fluctuating hormone levels, and can actually help to reduce some of the symptoms of perimenopause, which I can certainly go into a bit more detail at a later date with that one. Zendocrine is another one, which is really good for kind of hormone stuff. So there's loads of different kind of, things that oils can do. Quite often there's an essential oil to support most situations. In fact, there's essential oils to support you in situations where you thought perhaps nothing could support you. So, certainly you can use essential oils more so than you can use medicines. They are very versatile. Yeah, and if anybody's got any questions, then please just post them in the group. Now that everybody's kind of like got a bit of a foundation, got a little bit of a background, and they understand the basics, I think it's time to kind of like ramp up activity in the group. I'm certainly going to be posting a little bit more in there, but I just basically wanted everybody just to know a bit about how to use their oils before they jump in and start to kind of, use them without really understanding some of the basic principles of essential oil use. So I hope that's been helpful, and I hope, if you've got questions, just ask them. I'm so happy to answer them. Okay, good night to everybody.